Maya Weston never imagined that the first month of her teaching career would end with her standing in the middle of Lincoln High School's main hallway, her shirt ripped down the side and her hands shaking so badly she could hardly see. She had known teaching teenagers wouldn't be easy. She'd prepared herself for backtalk, rolling eyes, maybe the occasional rumor or prank, but she had never prepared herself for this. A moment so humiliating, so raw, it made her question everything about why she'd come here in the first place. It started just after the final bell. The echoes of slamming lockers and teenage laughter bouncing off cinderblock walls painted a dull institutional beige. Maya was only 24, young enough that she was frequently mistaken for a student. She was heading back to her classroom to grade essays on Of Mice and Men when she spotted them, a group of boys in Letterman jackets clustered by the trophy case, sneering at a smaller boy whose backpack dangled from one beefy hand. She recognized the leader immediately, Lance Holloway, captain of the football team, the senior who'd already made her life complicated by disrupting class almost daily. He was tall and broad-shouldered, with an arrogant tilt to his chin and a smirk that never seemed to leave his face. She'd spoken to the principal about him twice already, but all she got was sympathetic nods and murmured excuses. He has a rough home life. Just try to be patient. But patience only stretched so far. Lance. Her voice cracked the air, more steady than she felt. Put the backpack down. His eyes slid toward her, slow and lazy, like he could barely be bothered to acknowledge her existence or what, he drawled. The other boys snickered. Maya's throat tightened. I took a step closer, extending her hand. I said, put it down. He shifted his weight, the smirk widening. In one fluid motion, he swung the backpack toward the smaller boy's chest so hard the boy stumbled back into the lockers, wincing as the impact rattled the metal. Lance Holloway. That's enough, Maya said, louder this time, her voice echoing down the hall. The boy in the locker's corner. She remembered now one of her quietest students blinked at her, wide-eyed and pale. She could see how much he wanted to disappear, to melt into the cold tile floor and never be noticed again. Something in Maya's chest burned hotter than fear, hotter than anger. She knew that feeling too well, what it was like to be small and helpless and alone. She turned to face Lance fully. You will apologize to him, she said, and you will leave. His jaw tightened. The boys fell silent. For a second she thought, maybe he would back down, but then he took a single, deliberate step toward her, his voice dropping to a low, dangerous murmur. You think you can boss me around because you're the teacher, he said. You're nothing here, you're just some. And then he reached out and shoved her. The force wasn't much, she barely stumbled, but the gesture was so shockingly disrespectful that her brain froze. She didn't even react until he grabbed the front of her blouse, yanked it, and tore the seam halfway down her side. The rip sounded impossibly loud in the sudden hush. Gasps erupted up and down the hallway as other students turned to see what was happening. Maya's face went hot, her scalp prickling as humiliation rolled over her in waves. She pressed her arm over the tear, her heart hammering. That's enough, she shouted, voice ragged. But Lance didn't move. He stood there with that same insolent smirk, eyes glittering with triumph. He had humiliated her. He wanted her to crumble in front of everyone. Something inside her snapped. Later she would struggle to describe it, how the anger ignited and burned away every shred of self-doubt. She wasn't thinking of consequences or her job or the principal's likely reaction. She was thinking of the boy cowering behind her and all the other students who watched, silently wondering if she would let herself be bullied like they were. Maya shifted her weight onto her back foot, and then she drop-kicked Lance Holloway square in the stomach. The move came from instinct, years of taekwondo as a teenager, lessons she'd long abandoned but never truly forgotten. Her foot connected with a satisfying thud, and Lance's eyes went round with shock as he flew backward into the lockers. The impact rang out like a gunshot. A collective gasp sucked the oxygen out of the hallway. For an instant everything stopped. Lance wheezed, clutching his stomach, and slid to the floor. Maya straightened slowly, chest heaving. She looked around at the stunned faces, Connor staring at her like she'd grown wings, the other football players frozen in place. Someone's phone clattered to the ground as they fumbled to start recording. And in that surreal, breathless moment, she felt something she hadn't expected. Not shame, not regret, just clarity. She would not be the person who turned away. The aftermath was chaos. Security was called. The principal, Mr. Owens, rushed down from the front office, his face a shade of purple she'd never seen. He demanded everyone return to their classrooms, leaving Maya standing beside the still wheezing Lance, her shirt torn open and her heart still pounding. You assaulted a student, Mr. Owens hissed, voice low so the gathering crowd wouldn't hear. Do you have any idea what you've done? He assaulted me first, she said, struggling to keep her voice steady. And Connor, physical retaliation. He tore my shirt, Mr. Owens, in front of everyone. He closed his eyes, pressing his fingers to the bridge of his nose. Go to my office, he said finally. I'll deal with this. The next hours blurred together, meetings, phone calls to the district, a brief visit to the nurse to cover herself with a scratchy Lona sweater. She sat alone in the office, replaying every second over and over, trying to decide if she'd destroyed her life or saved something more important. Asterisk when the door finally opened again. It wasn't the principal, it was Connor's mother. She was a small woman with tired eyes and a pinched mouth, and she looked at Maya like she couldn't quite believe she was real. Asterisk my son. He came home once last year with a black eye. She whispered, said it was from gym class, said it was an accident. She swallowed. I know it wasn't. I know it was them. Maya's throat tightened. Thank you, the woman said simply, and her voice broke. Thank you for not looking away. When she left, Maya sat very still, staring down at her trembling hands. Asterisk 2 days later, the school board called. An emergency hearing. Word of the incident had spread like wildfire. Dozens of students had recorded the altercation on their phones, and within hours the video was circulating everywhere. Asterisk to Maya's shock, she wasn't universally condemned. In fact, many parents called to voice support. Emails flooded the school, some furious that a teacher had laid hands on a student, others praising her courage. Some called her a hero, some demanded her resignation. Lance's parents threatened to sue. Through it all, Maya tried to hold on to the only thing that mattered. She had done the right thing. She had protected a child when no one else would. Asterisk on the morning of the hearing, she almost didn't go in. She sat in her car, palms slick with sweat, wondering if she should simply drive away and never look back. But then she remembered Connor's face when she'd handed his backpack back to him, how his shoulders had straightened a fraction, as if for the first time he believed someone might be on his side. That thought carried her inside. The board members sat behind a long table, stern and unreadable. Mr. Owens was there, looking resigned. Lance sat off to the side with his father, arms crossed and face still bruised from the impact of the lockers. Asterisk, Maya spoke when asked. She told the truth. She told them everything, how she'd tried again and again to intervene through official channels, how she'd been dismissed, how she had reached her breaking point when a child was hurt. Asterisk at the end. She looked around the room and said, quietly but clearly, asterisk, I don't regret stopping him. There was a long silence. In the end, the board decided not to fire her. She would be placed on administrative leave for 2 weeks while they reviewed their policies and arranged additional training for staff. Lance would be suspended and required to attend counseling. The superintendent looked tired as he explained the decision, like a man forced to finally reckon with a problem no one wanted to admit. Maya left the building into the golden afternoon light, feeling hollow and exhausted. But as she crossed the parking lot, she heard someone call her name. Asterisk, it was Connor. He stood by the bike rack, backpack slung over one thin shoulder. When she turned, he lifted his hand in a shy wave. Asterisk, my mom said I could thank you in person, he said, voice small but sure. You don't have to, I know, he said, meeting her gaze, but I want to. Maya's throat closed up. You're not scared of them, he said, like it was the most astonishing thing he'd ever witnessed. Asterisk, no, she said softly, not anymore. Asterisk, he nodded and climbed onto his bike before he pedaled away. He turned and smiled, a tentative, hopeful smile that made her chest ache. In the weeks that followed, the incident became a catalyst. The administration finally acknowledged the severity of the bullying problem. New policies were drafted. Anti-bullying assemblies were scheduled. Teachers were given resources they'd asked for years to receive. Asterisk, and in the hallways, Maya noticed something else, the way students watched her with something like respect, the way Connor and kids like him started walking taller. Asterisk, she knew some parents still disapproved. She knew the story would follow her forever. But when she stepped back into her classroom, she felt something that surprised her. Asterisk, pride.